Hey there, Kenneth French of Vast Voice, telling business secrets to entrepreneurs. We're very, very happy you stopped by. Either you're going to watch this or listen to this because you want to take your business to the next level. You're probably an entrepreneur who's either just starting out or you've been around for quite a while and you want to take your business to the next level. You're probably a real estate investor, maybe even a real estate agent, maybe a professional or of some sort, professional advisor of some sort. And well, you are stopping by because you need some valuable advice from one of the top industry leaders there is. Anyway, thank you very much. Once again, Kenneth French, Vast Voice, telling business secrets to entrepreneurs. Really glad you stopped by.
Hey kids, guess who we're hanging out with? Brad Englert. He's the author of Spheres of Influence. This is a big deal because we get to pick his brain and learn how we can all take our business to the next level. Hey there, Brad. How are you?
Great. Thanks for inviting me.
This is good because it's probably timely because so many people, with what's going on with technology, the world, obviously, as far as technological advancements, people are trying to take their business to the next level, maybe even, maybe even working less and somehow bringing in more money. So I think your book not only helps with technology, but also helps with relationships. And it really will help a small business owner, which a lot of our listeners and viewers are small business owners. So I'm going to ask you for one tip. Give us one tip right off the bat that you think can add value to a small business owner.
Get out of your office and tell people you give a damn.
I like that. I don't know what it means, but I like that. What do you mean?
Well, you can sit in your office all day and wonder what your customers want. You could sit in your office all day and wonder what your staff needs. Or you could get off your duff and go meet with them and ask them. And if what you're selling is not what they need, then you need to admit that. And sometimes they'll ask for things that you can't provide, but you can get them connected to someone who can, and that'll pay forward. So understanding what the customer's goals and aspirations are, what are they trying to achieve? And then ask yourself, how can I align to that? And if I can, and if we have a way to help each other, how can we set and manage those expectations so we stay aligned? And then third, just genuinely caring about them. This is way beyond networking. This is transcending networking. This is not superficial and transactional. I went to a networking event and I got a couple of business cards, and some guy calls me a week later asking for a donation. It's like, I don't even know who you are. It's like, no.
Yeah, it's like walking up to a lady or a guy, someone of the opposite sex or someone you're interested in, and all of a sudden saying, "Hey, I want to get married." It's like,
Yeah.
"Whoa, you got to date a little bit."
So I was with Accenture for 22 years, 10 as a partner, and we were taught from day one that the people you're working with, whether it's your client or your peer, over time may become a customer, may become your boss, maybe may become a peer of yours. And literally, the person I started with at the firm 25, 30 years later became the chief information officer at a large Texas state agency the same year I became chief information officer at the University of Texas in Austin. We stayed in touch the whole way. And I, I'd say 80 to 90% of Accenture's customers are repeat customers. And and your listeners know that's a lot less expensive to sell to an existing customer than trying to go to a new customer. And so we're really taught to build trust, be successful together. And you don't do that by staying in your office all day.
I wrote a book about much of it was about marketing at the point back in 2014, and I overviewed the longevity and basically the benefits of having a long-term client and how beneficial it is. It's
Yeah,
so easy to forget. It's so easy to get wrapped up in, oh, I got to go out and get a new client. But
right.
really, I mean, we have a lot of businesses have enough clients in-house that, if they can work with those clients, get, who knows, more services, and then also some referrals, it's so much more beneficial and cost effective to work with that group than it is,
Right.
to spend money on Facebook or Google ads, et cetera, and going after the new client. So that's a really good lesson I just learned right there, or I'm reminded right there.
Yeah, I had a customer who needed some advice. The sales team was very transaction oriented. They were losing 50% of their sales every month. Yeah, so they're filling the bucket and it's leaking out the bottom at the same time. And he said, he asked his team, "Do you know anything about your customers?" And they knew nothing about their customers. And so they actually sat down, prioritized the customer base, got rid of the pain customers, pain, not pain,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
pain
yeah,
pain
important.
customers, because you don't have to serve everybody. And they prioritized to their best customers, and that reduced their turnover dramatically. And they were back in the 75 to 80% range of retention.
Yeah, there we go. So tell us, Brad, tell us a little bit more about you and spheres of influence, so people get a flavor of whom you are.
So as a partner in the firm, you were expected, part of the culture was you were expected to be a mentor and were a mentee, and you couldn't get out of it. You were expected to go to the training center and teach classes, even if you're a senior partner, and just enjoyed that culture of growing. Basically, you're growing the pie bigger for the firm. And when I left the university, retired from Accenture, I came to the university, and I inherited a central organization that was heroics and fire drill culture, which is kind of the opposite of me. So
Mhm.
that something would break, they'd swoop in, "Hey, we're heroes," and of course the customers hated that. they
Mhm.
they wanted predictability, transparency, proactive customer service. And over about 9 months, we really worked on the values of the organization, had some people transition out who didn't want to change, some transition in. And about 9 months later, we had more of a proactive customer oriented organization, which our customers appreciated.
Mhm.
I had a woman who worked for me. She read the manuscript. I said, "Brad, you left out the story where you forced me to go meet with this person who hated us." And I said, "Yeah, I did forget that. I'll put it in." And she goes, "I couldn't believe, I thought you were insane. Why would you make me go to meet with someone who hates us?" Well, there's some bad behavior in the past. So I said, "Go apologize for that and say, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to be transparent. We're going to be consistent. We're going to try to be customer oriented." About a year later, that woman uh, she met with became an advocate. Instead of hurling rocks at us outside the tent, she was in the tent helping us get better. And her boss became an advocate.
Yeah, that's kind of that in itself is a cool story. So tell us a little bit about spheres of influence, so people get even a little bit more of a
Sure.
flavor of that.
So when I retired from the university, I knew I wanted to write a book. And my editor said, "Okay, I have 40 years of stories. Just inventory them all, and we'll just look at it and put them into buckets." And the buckets were relationship with your boss, direct reports, executive leaders, and all your staff. And that was the internal sphere of influence. Those people you deal with almost every day,
Mm-hmm.
and at least every week if it's your boss and your direct reports. And then I had these stories of people less directly connected, but very important: your customers, peers and influencers, and strategic vendor partners. And someone noted that, yeah, no one ever talks about vendors at all. It's like, well, I'm spending tens of millions of dollars a year. I knew which my vendors were strategic and which weren't,
Mm-hmm.
and I made sure they knew where we were headed, and I understood, what they needed. So, an example was, we built a new data center, needed networking gear. It was budgeted for the old line of networking gear. I said to my vendor partner, "Could you get us the new line of networking gear?" And they
Mm-hmm.
said, "Well, yeah, you're a huge organization. You'll be a great reference, won't you?" And I said, "Of course I will." So we were able to get the latest line, which lasted 3, 4 years longer than the one we had budgeted for. And they made the change, and it was like, it was win-win because they got a great reference and we were happy. I had another vendor who would only show up once a year for their maintenance check, which was
Mm-hmm.
always 10% more than the prior year.
Mm-hmm.
And if I had a problem, they wouldn't respond. They just didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
And about 2 years later, I fired them.
Mhm.
And we got a company that really cared. The senior vice president of sales would call me once a month and say, "How's it going with our new product?" He didn't
Mhm.
have to do that, but he just said, "Look, you're big, 54,000 students, 21,000 staff, 4,000 faculty. We know things can go wrong, but we're here to help you." And that spoke volumes. Same thing with customers. I had a situation where a group we were helping, they had a person who was kind of putting their finger in what we were doing and then blaming us for it. And so I took this woman to lunch and I was describing how this relationship wasn't really working. And she looked at me and said, "You're firing me, aren't you?" And I said, "Yes, I am. I'm
Yeah.
firing you as a client, but I will buy your lunch and you don't have to pay me anything. I'll give you a refund." And of course, down the road, we worked together on something else.
Mm. I got you. It's
Uh,
full of stories. It's basically full of stories that
that's
really
correct.
kind of help a business owner. Again, our market, small business owners,
Yeah.
real estate investors, et cetera, or agents, even media partners, et cetera. So it sounds like even that, as I mentioned earlier, can really help a business owner who's listening, watching, et cetera.
Yeah. When I first joined the university, I met with this professor who I'd worked with 15 years prior. He's crusty, uh, cranky electrical engineer. And I said, "Give me some advice." He goes, "Get out of the office and tell people you care." And it's like, that was the best advice because my predecessor stayed in the ivory tower. You had to come to him, supplicate. And it's like, hey, this is a team sport. So I got out there and I would meet with my direct reports in their office. Well, why would I do that? Because I can walk across campus, run into people, customers and executive leaders, and then their teams would see me walk across their workspace to their boss every week like clockwork. And, showing the flag and showing them that you care and modeling the values that I talked about earlier. I made sure I went on vacation when I needed to. I went to training. If I was sick, I'd stay home. And I expected them, I wouldn't answer email 24 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
And I would expect my direct reports to do that and model that behavior and then model it for their teams.
Yeah,
So it
it really does make sense if you think about it to get amongst the people because there's so many people who are, as you mentioned, yelling from the ivory tower. You got to get amongst the people, focus groups as an
right.
example. Get out there as a leader because you don't know what's going on if you don't really hear, what your customers are saying, what your vendor partners are saying, or
Mhm.
your employees. And that's the only way to really grow, I would think, to grow is if you hear what's going on in the
That's
market.
right. And adjust your product. You may not have the right product. Some people get enamored with their product so much that they lose sight of the customer and the needs, and that's easy to do. Peers and influencers. So in a university, I met with people who are my peers. So, perfect example is the vice president for campus safety. Well, why would I do that? Because it wasn't if something would go wrong,
Mhm.
when would it go wrong, and how do we deal with it when it goes wrong? We had a shooting, we had a bomb scare, we had a murder, we had 103,000 people in the football stadium every other week in the fall. Our teams worked together all
Mhm.
the time, and we would practice. Once we do tabletop drills of what happens if the power went out? What happens if there's an ice storm, a hurricane, a cybersecurity attack? A year later, the power went out. It's like, okay, we knew how to handle that.
Yeah.
We had phones with copper lines in case that happened.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, we have a community called the Vast Vault. It's basically, excuse me, it's basically an app that basically, people can communicate. We have over 700 people on the app, and we try to get feedback from those people. And we have clients and their vendors, referral partners, and without that, I don't know if we. I mean, it makes it so easy to be able to get feedback because we have that app. There's engagement, and that's
Two-way
yeah, that's exactly
communication.
right. Because how do we know if we're doing a good job unless we're asking? And that app really helps because it's on our own system called Einstein. It lets us know basically very quickly if there's a customer service issue, if
Right.
someone doesn't like something we're doing, and it's it's a game changer. It really is. So that's in line with what you're talking about, really.
Yeah. Well, I met with my peers. All my direct reports met with their peers. So we had about 80 people every month or two that we would be talking with and
Mm.
meeting with, and it became our nervous system. You know, we learned things that we didn't know was happening. One of the uh, benefits is rumors. Public safety guy calls, "Hey, I heard a rumor you don't have any, you don't have enough diesel in the generators at the data center." I said, "That's a damn good rumor. I'll check it out."
Mm.
Check it out. It turned out the generators were running on natural gas, so it's a great rumor, but we were able to squelch it immediately instead of that whirling around in a big organization. I had another one. I heard you don't have enough licenses for the students to do their lab training. Well, the feds need that. Good rumor. I'll go check. We had enough licenses, but
Mm.
better to just that people are comfortable picking up the phone, sending me an email, and saying, "Hey, here's something you should know."
So, by the way, how does someone get a hold of you if they're interested in buying your book or getting your service? Excuse
Sure.
me, geez, getting your services, etc.
I'm going to send a customized link to you. You can put
Okay.
in the notes, and it will send your listeners to free sample the book on my website, how to buy the book on my website, and then how to schedule time with me.
I like it all. So, why don't you outline the name of your website?
BradEnglert.com.
How do we spell that?
BradEnglert.com.
And just in case, pretty much all our people have websites, but what is your website? How does it differ? How does it add value right off the bat?
Well, it describes the services we offer. So I do mentoring, I do coaching. The book is Amazon bestseller in mentoring and coaching, leadership training, and customer service. And I just help organizations focus on the people side of things. So IT services, maybe, but more of it's organizational help. It's a lot of fun.
And you do business all over the country, correct?
I do virtually all over the country. Yes. That's the wonderful,
I'm not actually.
wonderful, but virtual.
Yeah, I understand that. We've been virtual since '06. That's the only way to do it. So wait a minute.
Yeah.
So how, I'm going to ask you a couple more questions as we get ready to land this plane. So how did you, that's a weird question. Any tips and tricks to any authors out there? Because I know we have a couple people who are writing some books. I'm sure there's many out there, especially nowadays amongst our group, because a lot of them are getting into marketing. So I would ask this: any tips and tricks for people who want to write a book, or who are just about to write a book, or have written it and now they need help in marketing? Any really quick tips?
Yeah. Yeah. The public have a blueprint before you build the house.
Mm.
You have a design before you program something. And so we took the time up front to map out the whole thing. And then it was just like clockwork, knocking through the different sections. So full outline before you write a page.
I like it. What about marketing? It sounds like you've done really well. Any marketing tips?
Um, know your customer.
Hmm.
It's so important. You just, as you said, you need to get out there and walk in their space, understand what they're dealing with. And you'll just pick up things.
Very nice. One last time, how does someone get a hold of you if they're interested?
Um, I'm going to send you a link that will be an easy click, and they'll get to my website and they'll be able to schedule some time on my calendar.
Very cool, Brad. It's been a good time hanging out with you. Again, if you're interested, there's going to be a link on our website, but there's also, it's probably easy. It sounds like it's easy to get a hold of Brad. Also, you can get his book off Amazon. It's in its
Right.
spheres of influence. Once again, this is Kind of French, Vast Voice, telling business secrets to entrepreneurs. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. I hit the wrong button.
I wasn't sure.
I hit off instead of stop recording. Hold on. Ooh, it's still recording actually. Hold on.
Okay.